live today. I know that we had not been here for about a week. We are very, very busy here at the Art Center with lots of activities, lots of events coming up. But we look forward to bringing you interesting interviews with artists and performers. And we've got a few surprises up our sleeve because guess what? You can see the world of art through many lenses. And we've got some different ways for you to think about art coming up. But our special guests today, and they are very special, are Doug Gurdon and Loretta Satin, who together form Kindred Spirit. And these musicians are going to be coming to the Marco Island Center for the Arts on March 18th. Performances at 5:30. It is outside in our courtyard, socially distanced, because your health, well-being, and safety is of paramount importance to us. And while most of you are used to us doing sort of skewing towards jazz, this is a very different performance. So I want to say hello to Doug and Lorette. How are you guys? Hi, can you hear me? Excellent. Now, you two, tell us a little bit about what our audience can expect when they come to hear Kindred Spirit.
All right. Well, we are a duo. We play mandolin and guitar. Red plays the guitar, I play the mandolin. We both sing, and we both love the old country and bluegrass songs. There's a lot of Americana in this music and how it developed, and it's very much a music that was developed for people to express themselves in hard times and good times, and it's music that's always played acoustically, and it's music that always tells stories. And we feel it's very important to keep this music alive, to keep it playing it live, and it's very near and dear to both of our hearts for different reasons. Lorette and I met a number of years ago at the flea market in Bonita Springs, where there was a lot of bluegrass musicians. And over the years, we decided to get together and kind of refine our sound. We both enjoyed each other's voices, the way we played. And so we put this together, and it's something we love to do. We haven't had a lot of gigs in the last year, but we get together nearly every week to practice, just for no other reason than we love the music and we love singing with each other.
So what are some of the songs? As I said, we tend to skew towards jazz here, but I was really excited when I was doing some research for performers, and I came across the two of you and the opportunity to bring some bluegrass music to Marco Island Center for the Arts. So what are some of the songs that our audience might expect from the two of you?
Well, we do a lot of Bill Monroe songs, who was the founder of bluegrass from Kentucky originally. And you will hear several of those, which are our favorites, always was my favorite. And he sort of laid the basis for everything else. And I just fell in love with bluegrass for no apparent reason. I just love the music. I have a certain reason, which I'll tell you later, why I got into it. But the songs are really like, I'll do one about coal mines. Now, my grandfather was a coal miner, so that meant something to me. They're very heartfelt songs, written from the heart of everyone who's lived life, had problems, happiness, sadness, and it just touched me. And not long ago now, I didn't know a thing about bluegrass I didn't even know it existed. Now, my husband did play the guitar a little bit, but he was more country. And after my husband passed away about 15 years ago, and I was led to this bluegrass by God, I swear, because I was very devastated after he passed. And it just it just meant a lot to me to hear these songs. And I met new people and very friendly people and found out bluegrass exists. You'd be surprised. Bluegrass exists all over the world. And bluegrass festivals and the music it was just something that took me away from the grief and the sadness for a long time and brought me to meet a lot of wonderful people. And I taught myself how to play and sing.
Really?
While I was going to the bluegrass festivals, I would stand behind groups and I would play a couple chords and more, and I learned 2 or 3 songs. And a bluegrass festival is one of the greatest things you can go to, especially a picking festival, because you just go from camp to camp and everybody's playing and singing. It's all live music, and I just fell in love with it. I became addicted with it. I didn't want to do anything else.
Wow.
One thing that people might think of when they think of bluegrass music is kind of harking back to "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Angel Band and In the Jailhouse Now, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? Different songs like that are in the genre, and people will recognize those. But "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" is one of those things that really lifted bluegrass music up. Just as the Bonnie and Clyde film from many decades ago with the banjo of Earl Scruggs playing Foggy Mountain Breakdown as the getaway car zooms away. That's some of the energy that's in the music. It's a lot of this music is played at a very fast clip with a lot of energy, and even the sad songs have a lot of energy in them, and they're played in a way that's uplifting.
Wow, and we certainly can use that during what have been really challenging times. I'm wondering if there weren't new bluegrass songs that were written in the last year that are reflective of what people have gone through.
Yeah.
And
there is. What was the one Rhonda Vincent did about the COVID?
Oh, yeah. I ain't been nowhere.
Yeah.
there's a bluegrass song called "I've Been Everywhere," and it's one of those. It's got every state in it, and it's quite a tongue twister to get to know, and it's mentioning all the states and a lot of the cities. Well, somebody wrote a parody on it called "I Ain't Been Nowhere," and it talks about bathroom, living room, kitchen, dining room, and it goes through the whole thing. It's funny.
That is. Now, with both of you, how long have the two of you been playing together?
What do you think?
Oh, yeah, probably 12 years, something like that.
And sort of what was, now, Lorette, you just told us you just learned how to play when you discovered music. What was your musical background, Doug? How did you learn to play?
Mine's a little bit lengthier. My mother played the organ. We had an organ at home, so when I was in the 6th grade, I started taking organ lessons. I played the organ in high school rock and roll bands, and then on through college and that, I played the guitar and with the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young kind of thing. Learned to play the guitar and did that. Actually, in college, I took music theory and took performance organ, classical organ, learning that. And actually had nothing to do with bluegrass. When I got married and started a family, the music kind of went by the wayside. I still played guitar a little bit, taught my sons to play piano and that. And then through a kind of a series of happy coincidences, as Bob Ross might say, happy accidents. Somebody put a mandolin in my hands, and I found all these bluegrass musicians, and I literally did not like bluegrass music for most of my life. And when I turned into my 50s, it just spoke to me. I had seen some people of my age playing rock and roll music I played when I was young, and they were still trying to jump around, and it just didn't look right. Like Mick Jagger, That just has a taint to it. But you can be 95 years old playing bluegrass music and it still looks cool. And the songs spoke to me and the instruments spoke to me and the people were just wonderful. People who love this music are just so good to each other and so good to everybody around them. Not many years before I met Lorette, I had started playing the mandolin and started learning these songs and just, we call it picking, started picking and singing with everybody I could find.
Well, and you're talking about your mandolin. Now we know what a guitar looks like, and that's what Lorette plays. Can you? I bet you have a mandolin hanging around right where you are that you could show.
I have a couple of them, but I have this one right here, which is a good example. This is an A style, they call it, and mandolin is actually an Italian word. The joke is it's an Italian word that means never in tune, because you have 8 strings on here, and each set of strings is tuned to each other. So you actually have 4 notes, just like the violin. You have an E, an A, an B, and a G, but 8 strings. So each of these 2 strings have to be tuned to each other. But the shape of this is like an almond, and that's what mandolin means in Italian, is little almond. So the mandolin is a beautiful instrument. There's a lot of craftsmanship goes into it. Some of them, I have another one that has a big scroll over here, a lot of fancy work up here, but there's inlay. This one has the flower pot inlay in the headstock, and you have this beautiful quilted maple on the back, and a spruce on the top, and it just is make these beautiful tones as well as you kind of mark and light a little bit too. So I just love playing this. You can get so much sound out of it, and everything from pretty tones to kind of gravelly and bluesy stuff. There is blues and bluegrass, and that is very much for a purpose and a reason. But that's the mandolin, and I'll be talking a little bit about the history and where it came from and how it's used to produce percussive sounds as well as melodies and background.
Oh, so that, I mean, people are really going to be able to not just enjoy the music, but they're going to learn something when they come to see the 2 of you perform.
One of the things that I love to do is talk about where bluegrass music came from, because it's such a good story. If anybody watched Ken Burns' country music special, there were 1 or 2 episodes of that were dedicated to bluegrass music, because in the 1940s and the early 1950s, there was a confluence of bluegrass, folk, country, and rock and roll. Lorette mentioned Bill Monroe earlier, who is the father of bluegrass music. He's, I think, the only person, but if not the only person, one of the only people who was in the bluegrass, the country, and the rock and roll Hall of Fame.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And the B-side of the first record that Elvis Presley made was Blue Moon of Kentucky, which was written by Bill Monroe. It was actually a bluegrass song. He changed it up a little bit and made it a little bit more palatable to the audiences of his time, but he took that song and made it a rock and roll song because it had that backbeat that rock and roll depends on, and a lot of people attribute that backbeat to Bill Monroe and what he did with the mandolin.
Wow.
So we'll talk a little bit about that, but in much more interesting ways than I'm talking about.
Oh, I think it's very interesting. And as I said, I don't know a lot about bluegrass music, and that was part of why I was really interested in bringing you 2 here to the Art Center. And letting our audience learn something new and be exposed to something. Plus, as you've told me, there are a lot of bluegrass fans out there, and so I'm hoping that my friends here on Marco, my Art Center family and friends who are here on Marco, are going to come on over and purchase a ticket and join us. Now, I'm just curious, Kindred Spirit. Now, how did you choose that name for your duo?
You do that.
We
He really picked it, I don't know.
we were passing around for a name, and at the time, I was listening to some different music. One of the things I was listening to, and some of the audience may be familiar with this name, Norman Blake. Norman and Nancy Blake are not really bluegrass musicians, they're roots musicians, and Norman Blake played on some of the old Brother Warrell music. But he had made a recording. He and his wife Nancy, Norman and Nancy Blake, had made a recording with a guy by the name of Tut Taylor. Tut Taylor was a dobro and a mandolin player, and there was a song on the CD called Kindred Spirit, and it was a very unique sounding tune. It really doesn't sound like a bluegrass song per se. It's written in a minor key, and Rhett loves minor keys. Minor keys sound mournful and really very evocative of a kind of a dark side and a dark spirit. Not that Lorette isn't cheerful, but the song, we both really love this song called Kindred Spirit, and we learned how to play it, and if the spirit moves us, we'll probably play it that evening. But we liked the song, and shortly thereafter, we also saw a painting, and I can't remember the name of the artist, but it was done at Yosemite, out in California, Yosemite Park. Beautiful painting of a person standing, I think, on El Capitan or something like that, and looking out at the Yosemite Valley. And the name of the painting was Kindred Spirit. That kind of
my God,
right there. So Kindred Spirit works. Now there are other groups called Kindred Spirit, and we have been booked to play places, and they'll put it online, and there'll be this picture of these guys from California or somewhere. Don't look anything like us. So there are other Kindred Spirit names out there, but
maybe
we
you need
really
to
like the name, and we like the song.
Maybe you need to become Kindred Spirits or something that distinguishes you.
I think actually most of them groups are Kindred Spirits.
Okay.
So we kind of say Kindred Spirit. So and it also speaks to our both of us looking at this music in a lot the same way. The music drew us for different reasons, but I think we both get a lot of the same things out of this music.
Well, now I'm going to start with you, Lorette. Who or what has been a major influence in your musical career?
I guess basically, I'd say
me, right?
I already had my career when I met you.
Sorry.
Not really a career, no. You know, I guess it would be the music itself, Bill Monroe, and it just that really, and it was a time of my life when I got into the bluegrass that I needed something. I was so devastated, and it just took me away from all that sorrow and grief. But basically, most of when I first got into it, I would go to these festivals, and these people would just invite me to come in and play with them and learn and sing, and they just made me feel so welcome. And then the more I did it, the more I wanted to do it. And then it got to the point where I just wanted to be in the middle of it. And I sing now. I learned like 3 songs, and I go from campsite to campsite doing this 30 songs over and over again. And I said, can I sing now? And it was it's the people itself, I think, that drew me, along with the music. I fell in love with the music. It's addictive, let me tell you. When I got into it, I didn't want to work, I didn't want to do anything. All I wanted to do was play the guitar and sing.
Wow.
And of course, when I started playing with Doug, I mean, he's really a pro, and he helped me a lot with he's a perfectionist. I'm not. I just play for the fun of it. He's the perfectionist, so you'll see that too while we play together. I mean, I get these looks like, I'm doing something wrong, so. Yeah. But it's been wonderful. No matter how old or young you are, you should all play an instrument because it's something you will value the rest of your life.
It's very healing.
Yeah, and the music is, when I do these songs, a lot of them that I learned came from here, and a reason to learn them was thinking about my husband, long, lonely this, I'm always lonely, I'm always blue, and it had a lot to do with my own feelings. And that's why the songs I do are really important to me. And then some of them I learned just for jam and just to be happy. But it's been a wonderful thing, and I'm telling you, I just would tell anyone to. And once you get into it, I mean, it is different. It's different music than you normally will hear on the radio or see on television. But it's something you do with everyone else. I mean, even just us two is fine. But really, we're all in other bands, and it should be 4 or 5 people. It's four harmonies usually together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something. It's something you do as a group. It's
Well-
not that anybody is a particular star. Now we do have some big stars in bluegrass, of course, but even their bands are composed of the mandolin, the banjo, the bass, the fiddle, and it all comes together with the harmonies, and I just think it's beautiful.
Wow.
I
Well,
really love it.
if this goes over well, we'll try and bring a larger ensemble. I mean, normally because we're inside and our space